This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. It's straight to the point to respect people's time, and because we know knowledge and wisdom turn to business possibility, and possibility mixed with support and action become reality. In this podcast, we discuss leadership, sales, marketing, operations, team development, quality, and finance to drive sustainable results and everlasting impact to make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Vinnie, welcome to the show. I am super excited to have you here, and I am very eager to dive into what you do and how you do it, because there's a lot of listeners and people watching who desperately need what you do and your talents.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Vinnie, for the people watching and listening, can you share with us in a short, condensed way, and this could be a challenge, it is sometimes, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Vinnie Fisher, I am a husband of almost 30 years. It's probably the thing I do the most, to a wife named Debbi. We're in a really interesting phase of life, Brad. I have 4 children, a 22, 20, 18, and 16-year-old, and we've got kids moving out of the house. And so I'm probably first and foremost like a counselor, and like I'm a man of faith. So I'm leaning on all kinds of things right now, but I'm also like helping my wife reinvent the next version of her life, because we're watching our family get a new phase of complicated. So that's what I am the most. I also have the privilege to run and operate as the CEO of Fully Accountable, a wonderful enterprise that provides outsourced accounting and finance to tech-enabled and e-commerce companies. Got hundreds of those at fullyaccountable.com. Doing that. And then, Deb and I, we've had the good career. We have multiple companies that we are active investors in, and we operate our own investment fund, and we're involved in kind of curating investments in businesses. My main thing I do, Brad, is I really like build leadership teams. That's what I love to do. It's where I spend my time. I do that in a church setting. I do that in a community setting, and I do that in a business setting.
Great stuff. Lots of irons in the fire. However, spoken very clearly, very succinctly, and there's no way I could love the leadership aspect of it. We're in the people business, and so it's really all leadership, isn't it?
It sure is. I also learned that I'm inherently lazy. I'm very driven, like to create things, but I don't like to stick around in them. And so I try to I'm hunting for eagles that like to run things.
It's interesting you say that, because you and I'm certain we'll get along great. I love running things. So as an integrator, like I'm more operational. I like picking things up that somebody creates and then making them streamline and optimizing them. So it's great diversity. Diversity is the spice of life. I love it.
Yeah.
Vinnie, so it's great. And I know you have lots of accomplishments, and we had a great chat before this. For the people listening and watching, with your vast experience, because you're what would be considered a serial entrepreneur, right?
Yes,
with
sir.
Lots of successes under your belt. What's the best thing for you about being in business?
So the way I create things is I've always, the stuff I've developed, I've got strikeouts too, by the way, some rather classic ones. I'm a problem solution person. So I see a problem. I want there to be a solution. If I don't find one, I need to go solve it, usually for myself. And then if I look and see if others want the same thing that I've created, but virtually everything I've ever created that has any real value in the marketplace has been a problem being solved. I'm highly creative. And so it's the part I love the most. As a matter of fact, I have to really guard against being intellectually bored when something gets into maintenance operation mode and not into creative mode. I got to work really hard in that phase to not go break it or do something and cause it to be broken.
I love hearing. I know there's a lot of people can relate to that as well. So lots of creators here listening and watching. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are in that space. So I dig it.
Yeah. So I'm like classically a very driven 0 to 1 person. I have to work really hard. But what I've learned is surround myself with 1 to 10 people who want to make things better and not the pressure of creating things. And so that's what makes for good teams. And so I'm quite good at doing that. And that's my favorite part.
Love that. Next question is one of my favorite questions. I already mentioned as an integrator. This is question sort of designed around that. We hear from other business owners that they're getting so much business that sometimes that level, that amount of business causes some chaos or some feelings of overwhelm. Would you be willing to share your thoughts about that topic? I imagine you've been through that a time or two.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful problem to have when a business has got so much business, doesn't know what to do. I think there's 2 perspectives on that, honestly. There's this technician in all of us, right? We do something that we're good at. And so historically, I've tried to not build businesses around my technical skill. So I'm a lawyer. When I had a law firm, I had a problem with a lot of leads because I can only bill so many hours. And I would run into this issue where I've got leads, but that means I'm going to do more work if I bring in more clients. And I started to get burned out. Well, when I left the active law practice for my law firm, I set out to not build another business that trapped me as a technician. So a lot of creators of businesses honestly will say that because they're trapped technicians and they're exasperated or burned out by their own organization. So I think a lot of people say that there. If you're somebody who isn't that as a trapped technician and you have those concerns, then I think it's just and I've had this from time to time. It's probably someone who hasn't enjoyed the actual aspects of building a business. They maybe like the offer or the first sale, but didn't love the components of building out a business. I had to learn how to mature through that I'm thankful I've done. And, we're on our 4th 8-figure enterprise, sold 2 of them, broke 1 of them and wrote a book about it. And we're on our 4th one now.
I totally relate. I know there's a lot of people who relate to what you just shared. So great aspects there. And one of the things I love about what you just said is that, this really isn't for everybody. And a lot of people get charged up and they want to leave their job, or that technician piece that you had mentioned, right? And I think it's very common, get to a point where you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not employable anymore, or I've hit the ceiling, right? And so you start your own company, but you really don't know anything about running a business. And so it becomes overwhelming just because you're creating your own issues or your own challenges. And we all need some help. So great points. I love hearing you.
That's why we have coaches in the world who are like you, who can really come in and come alongside people who have like barriers and help them break through those.
Love breaking those barriers. Thanks, Vinnie. I appreciate you. So the next question is fun. What other successful business owner, someone like yourself who's highly successful, might be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast next?
Good question. I got a wonderful network. I don't know why one of my close friends just popped into my mind. A guy named Tony Grebmeyer. He's the owner and founder of a company called Ship Offers. And he's easy. You can just get him Tony at. And he always comes with such massive wisdom, but he's a big thinker. He's always highly positive. I think he'd be a great guest on your show in light of the questions that are being asked.
I love that, Vinnie. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it. Let's get to the crux of this. Let's get to some real business wisdom. And you have a lot to share. So, Vinnie, from your perspective and vast knowledge, what's something that you would share with other business owners from your perspective and what you've learned?
Something you said a little bit earlier just popped into my mind, this idea that this isn't for everybody. I think it's wonderful that we chase our desires and we go and try things. I am a risk taker. So I always celebrate when people want to go try things. I would encourage people not to stare at season 3 of my life. You got to go back to season 1, the building of things. So if you're going to go try something, great, go try it. But don't go look at season 3 where we're finally starting to win a few games and look at the roster and say, wow, I can do that. You need to go back to season 1 when we couldn't win a game, couldn't even field a team, barely could be like within a touchdown of anybody. And we still fought through it. And why I'm telling everyone that is because most people don't push through. It's not that they don't have work ethic. They do. They like to work hard, but they'll give up on themselves earlier, and they won't push through the hard stuff. And most people who bail on business isn't because they don't have an offer that isn't working or they don't have a model that might work. They end up giving up on themselves through the hard stuff.
Great points. Great points. And right here, full circle back to the leadership. So Vinnie, let me ask you this. You have pushed through a number of things, and I love that you are being very authentic and honest also. Hey, some wins, some losses, right? I love when people share that. As in social media today, you know, a lot of people see just the wins or just this third season or third quarter. And so getting into some of the harder stuff, what would you recommend? How does someone push through that? Where does that persistence come from? Or how can they push through if they're like, I just want this, I want it really bad, I've got to make it happen? Like, how do they push through? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I tell you, everyone's got, I love the design, the Lord's design for people, right? Everyone's got different personalities. And that means then because of that, I've got different traits than you have. And I also, because I believe everyone has at least a talent, I have different skills. And so I think when those two line up, your skills and your talents, you start feeling like you can do some effective things. Then, of course, we're promised many trials and we're promised hard stuff. It's mindset. I wrote a book, actually. I broke a big company, a web hosting company. We would have been a 9-figure darling, and if it wasn't for my arrogance. And so 𝐂𝐤𝐤𝐿 was really writing a book of like how I would do it if I did it again. And by the way, I love to give gifts away. So show gift is you can put the show notes in there that at fullyaccountable.com/unlimited business wisdom. We'll give away everything I'm about to say. I wrote a book called CEO's Mindset. Go there, go get it. I think every good book has at least a principle in it. And that principle is really about the mindset of the leader and overcoming. And the best chapter in there is probably the people chapter, which is all part of that. Like, it's understand your skills and traits and get surrounded by the people who fill in the ones you don't have so that you can be focusing on the things you should be doing, which is what's led to really our business enterprises being well-staffed, profitable, difference makers, and solving problems for what I would say are God's children. And so that's what we do. And please take advantage of those resources. Like, they're there. I guess the only thing we get in return is your email address. But if you want those things, our team, if you live in the US, will mail you a nice fancy package. All you got to do is ask. But the point of that is not giving you more of my stuff. The point of that is that I think we have to work on ourselves the most. Because what happens is we start focusing on things that are not true, they're not noble, they're not honorable. Our mind gets caught up in a bunch of junk. And the thing I did the most in my life, Brad, is I used awful language about myself. And once I realized that, that was a big changer for me in business.
Vinnie, I'm so with you 100%. This isn't about me. This is about you. Otherwise, I'd take deep dive here, but I so relate to what you said. Most of my life, I had that kind of language to me and, was a victim rather than a victor. And it wasn't until I, like you, I guess, turned that around and began to filter through that. So I love hearing what you're saying about what you're offering. I want to encourage anybody listening and watching, go grab that stuff, because I'm sure a lot went into producing that material, Vinnie, and I'm sure it's
I wrote
fantastic.
a few books. We had bestseller in there that we'll give you those. And there's other materials that we would do to build out the back office of your business, which I think is the part that most people don't want to do. I don't want to do it. That's why I built these businesses. And so, take advantage of them, please. Like, it's there for you to use. And so the only thing I ever sell is speed and automation. So if you want to go faster or have experts do it, that's all. Everything else you can go do yourself. Right, and we don't believe we should firewall information. Go do it.
I love it. I love it. I can tell there's a theme here about your level of service and how you serve, Vinnie, and I want to just celebrate you and commend you for that. It's very clear to me, and I'm sure it is clear to the listeners and people watching.
Thank you for that.
So you've been pretty humble here. I mean, you talked about leadership, you talked about strength, but what I could say strength-based training, like working in your strengths, not in your weaknesses. We talked about, what you can do. You've given some great advice and suggestions. Would you speak into your business a little bit. What are you doing with your business? If I don't ask you directly, I feel like you probably won't share it. So Vinny, share with me like some of the great initiatives that you're doing and how you're helping people financially and some of the things that people, fear and what I've seen on your website and
Yeah.
things like that. Would you just
Yeah, it all started
speak
because
to that?
I care. I'm a forward thinker. I'm always living in the future. I got to work to be present. So I'm always like, if someone tells me a sales number, I'm always excited about or sad that we're not next Tuesday's sales number versus today's. And that's just the nature of the way I'm built. So I've had to work at that. Well, I built a company because of that called Fully Accountable. I cared more about the gross revenue than I cared about what we kept. And through the process of maturing through that, breaking a few businesses, we started to really recognize a problem in the market that most accounting and finance is just old school. And so before technology started catching up, late 2014, early 15, I set out to want to change that. And we built Fully Accountable. It's a fractional CFO and controller service that has data analytics. Right now, I'm the most excited about is the technology we've built. So we've got software that plays nice with all the other tools and all algorithmic. And it's an app interface with the client. And what we're rolling out next is how to continue to add other elements of automation in there. So we're somewhere between a fintech and a finance as a service company. And we're doing all of that to try to continually offer a robust client offering so that we can, help more businesses really double their profit margin.
I love it. It's all about
Yep.
finding that problem for the client and solving it. I love it.
Yeah, and we've been doing that for high transaction companies, and we've built up a great brand, and which is code for we're doing well, and it's wonderful. We've got great team, so I love it. Love what we're doing. The tech part is super expensive, so we're investing a lot of money in that. But I think we'll win the arms race because of it.
I love it. I love hearing that. Vinny, I know that you and I could talk business for hours and hours. I know we could. I can tell. I get the feel, right? But I think that we actually work to live and not live to work, and I imagine you share that as well. But what's one of the most fun vacations you've ever had? I'm curious to learn.
That's great. Debbie and I love to travel. So I've had the privilege of being one of those people who gets on a plane and goes places. I actually have two different answers. So if you would say like, what's your best family vacation? It was this awful, cheap RV that we rented as a family and spent a month in this smelly machine driving around the western mountains of our wonderful United States. Super great. Of all the fancy vacations that we've taken our family on, nothing beats that, with all the stories and laughter and smelly things that happen inside that thing. And so it was great. If I think about just a trip that was like for Deb and I, and we go with another couple who are our best friends, we took this amazing trip, and during Ramadan, I found myself nestled into ancient Morocco in a little city. And I felt like I was living at the time of Jesus because it was so old and ancient, and the Muslim people there were devoted and worshiping and kind. It was a magical trip that it's hard to recreate trips, but that one it ranks up there. Go find yourself in a little dinky town in an ancient community. And if you're like me and you just love the uniqueness of people, you'll have a blast. And so just the smells and the things they do and the stuff, and trying to find some version of like the salutations of Arabic and make my way through it, do it all over again tomorrow.
I love that. You just took me back to a trip that I had in Morocco too. It's awesome. I love it. Vinny, this has been great. I'm curious. So I've looked at your website. You're on social media as well. I'm like, if somebody does here's what people do. Most people, they listen to this are like, this guy's interesting, right? And so they'll do a little bit of research. What's something, if they do a little bit of research online, what's something they wouldn't find? Is there anything that you'd like them to know that they won't find on social media?
Gosh, I don't know. Because I really hold out that I'm a Christ follower. I'm not ashamed of that. So
yeah,
they might not see that at first glance because it's my faith. I'm not trying to shame someone for whatever they do or don't have. So they could find that out by hearing that from my words. Um, they probably won't find out a lot about Debbie because she's a very private gal, so I don't have a lot of that out there. So they'd probably find out that I'm every day trying to work at having an amazing marriage with an amazing woman.
That's fantastic. I love that. So we have come full circle. You started out with that, and
Yeah.
here we are full circle. Vinnie, this has been fantastic. Thank you very much for your humility, for the way you've served, for taking a chunk of your day to be here to connect with other people. And I do encourage people, because I've looked at your website and it is fantastic. Speaking of tech and all of that, and it's great. And there's a lot of information on there. So I want to encourage everybody to check that out. So if somebody does a little bit of research and they want to reach out and ask a question or connect with someone, or what's the best method for them to do
Yeah,
that?
just go to fullyaccountable.com and click on the button that says contact us, and you'll be in a system. We eat our own dog food. We use our own tech. I'm very accessible, and you could just get me at Vinnie or you can go Vinnie at anything on all the social elements, and you can find me at VinnieFisher.com. But if you really want to know more about us, I would go down the journey of take advantage of that free gift that we're offering, and that'll give you the inroad into all of it.
Yeah, I love that. I want to encourage you. So if you're listening, you're watching, and you're like, hey, this has been great. I really resonate with what Vinnie's been sharing here. Then I want to encourage you, do something different. Don't just listen to the podcast. Actually do something about it, right? Take a step. And so get on the website, click that, reach out, have a conversation, right? Check out the information that's provided to you. So Vinnie, thank you very much again for your time, for the way you serve. I celebrate you.
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. If you're looking for more on leadership, sales, marketing, or operations to drive team development, higher quality, and high-level sustainable profits, we encourage you to join the Built for Brilliance community on Facebook or reach out to us about one of our mastermind groups, coaching or consulting, or even fractional COO services. You can reach us at buildbrilliance.net/contact. We thank you for listening, for sharing the show, and appreciate your rating and reviews, as this makes more shows possible. Thanks for joining us.